Today we're talking about dating chameleons.
But before we start, remember, if you like this video, subscribe, like, and comment. I have a wonderful and insightful coaching client. We spent a lot of time early in coaching about what her core desires were and found out that security and safety in a relationship is the thing she really values the most. And interestingly, we also uncovered that as she becomes more invested in a relationship, she begins to mold herself into what she thinks the other person wants.
I think it's a fairly common practice for us to say what our dating partners want, especially if we really like them.
We recently interviewed a best-selling author, Dr. Greg Bear, who said that the worst thing that can happen in dating when you're trying to impress the other person and get them to like you is to succeed, because then you have to continue to be something you're not forever after that.
And really, who can do that? I mean, it literally is not sustainable.
Ultimately, the relationship breaks down and you're not able to keep putting on the front, and then your partner feels disappointed, you feel overloaded with expectations, things don't go smoothly after that.
I like showing up in life as my best self. That's how I prefer to be, but not every day I'm always going to be at my best. And so Greg Bear, when we did our interview with him, suggested when we're not our best self to be vulnerable and honest about just not being in a good place, and that will actually draw our dating partners closer to us because they'll see us being real with them.
The coaching client I mentioned earlier had sort of an epiphany. You don't have to change to be loved. And I think that's really at the heart of what we're talking about. Because if you feel like you have to change to be acceptable to the other person, then you're not really acceptable, are you? They're not accepting you as you are. They want you to change. And so for the right person, you're going to be acceptable as you are. Now, you may want to change. You may want to lose weight, or you may want to read more. Doing those of your own volition and your own initiative is different from having to do them for a dating partner that does not accept you as you are.
And when we can be loved as we are, that's when we know we're really, really loved. If I were to be dishonest about who I am and someone likes me because I am showing them the version of me I want to be, not who I actually am, I will always question if they really love me. And I've seen it happen in both directions, where if someone weren't being honest with me and I really liked them, they couldn't feel that from me because they weren't being truthful about who they were.
My coaching client actually wrote the phrase on the mirror, "I don't have to change who I am to be loved." If you feel you have a problem being a dating chameleon, I want you to do that. Write it in lipstick or soap or whatever on your mirror. I don't have to change who I am to be worthy of love.
I love that. We could all use a little bit more of that in our lives, right?
Absolutely. Part of showing up confidently in a relationship is believing that who you are is enough to be worthy of the love of another person. And you know what? I'm not for everyone. Not everybody I ever dated liked me. And that's okay, because the one person that ended up mattering the most did.
And we're not all for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
But we are for someone. Each one of us is for someone.
If you feel like you try one person on after another, it only needs to work once. It just hasn't worked yet.
And we encourage you to add "yet" to the end of every sentence that hasn't happened yet, because it gives us hope, right?
Right. So be who you are, and then if you're accepted, you'll know it's for real.
So I have a question. Why is it that dating partners do that? Why do some of them show up and try to be someone they're not?
Sometimes when we're really beginning to invest in a relationship and we know it might kind of hurt if that relationship ended, we try to protect ourselves by being what the other person wants, by trying a little too hard to make sure the relationship works out. And the ironic thing is, like my client talked about how her core value, her core desire in a relationship is to feel safe. But how do you ever feel safe if you're not being your true self? How do you feel safe in a relationship where you're nervous that the other person might find out the truth about you and that it will torpedo the relationship? Even though you're trying to be safe in the short term by being someone you're not, in the long term, that's going to become an incredible burden.
You know, the word that came to my mind was shame. If we feel shame about who we are, if there's anything we don't like about ourselves, of course we're going to want to show up as someone different. But if we can transform that shame into the belief and the knowledge that we have value as we are, we're going to be a lot less likely to take those measures to go be something we're not.
That's something we can help you with in coaching, and it's certainly something that if you have that tendency, to try to mold yourself to be what somebody else wants, to at least be a matter of intention in your own dating experience, to try to show up, bringing goodness to the relationship, bringing goodness to your partner, even if it's just for a first date, but also being authentic and vulnerable so that that person gets to know the real you. And if you are accepted, you're going to know you've really got something.
I just thought of something really great to bring up in this video that we hadn't considered before. What about flips and flops? Flips and flops are just two sides of the same characteristic. We have the flip side of, let's say, being organized. The flop side might be that we get really out of sorts when things are not in their place. So when we show up on a date or in a relationship, we can take the characteristics we know we have and try to work on them from our flip side so that we can emphasize and highlight our strengths, and then our dating partners can get to know both our flips and our flops, and we like, as a couple, to see the flip side of our partner's characteristics. So anything that could be maybe potentially something that could drive us crazy, on the flip side, we can also really appreciate it too.
Yeah, that's a really a great insight, Cathy. I think for the right person, they will accept your flops as well as your flips.
And that's what makes dating and relationships in this life so interesting, is because we're all human. We all have those characteristics with the flips and the flops and all of the interesting humanness of our experience.
So go out there and date confidently. Understand that you have tremendous goodness that you can bring to any relationship.
We would love to hear your dating chameleon stories, or even how you've overcome your own tendency to show up as not your most authentic self. Please leave your comments. We'd love to hear from you.
And remember that any time is a great time for more love in your life. Thank you for listening.